Metonimia. Ya no me acuerdo de la cita exacta, aunque sé de qué libro viene. Rebusco por toda la casa, pero no lo encuentro. Y de repente me acuerdo de que cuando dividimos nuestras vidas, nuestros libros, dejé que te lo llevases. No hay ningún hueco en la estantería. Otros libros han ocupado su lugar. Otros hombres han ocupado tu lugar en mi cama. Pero la ausencia de ese libro que compartíamos alguna vez, que leímos los dos ese verano que nos conocimos, abre de nuevo un vacío dentro de mí, incluso ahora que han pasado los años.
Metonimija. Ne spomnim se točnega stavka, čeprav vem, iz katere knjige je. Preiščem vso hišo, a je ne najdem. In nenadoma se spomnim, da sem ti opustil, ko sva prepolovila najini življenje, najine knjige. Ni več praznine na polici, druge knjige so zapolnile prostor. Drugi moški so zapolnili tvoj prostor v moji postelji. A odsotnost te knjige, ki sva si jo nekoč delila, ki sva jo oba brala tisto poletje, ko sva se spoznala, ponovno razpre praznino v meni. Še danes, toliko let kasneje.
El segundo se llama Receta para el amor. Nunca puedo cocinar a partir de un libro, todo medidas exactas e impersonales. Necesito que alguien me muestre paso a paso cómo se hace. Soy un cocinero vago. No empecé a explorar y a experimentar hasta que no estuve cocinando, solo para mí. Echamos una pizca de esto, cocinamos al gusto, probamos cada poco lo que estamos preparando. Nos daremos de comer el uno al otro. Si falta algo, improvisaremos. Todo lo que sé de la cocina lo he aprendido de una amiga que me dijo: el secreto de cocinar es no dejar nunca que la comida huela a tu miedo. Es también todo lo que sé del amor. Entramos a la cocina y te lo muestro.
Recept za ljubezen. Nikoli ne morem kuhati po receptu. Odmerki so preveč točni in neosebni. Potrebujem nekoga, da mi pokaže, korak za korakom, kako to gre. Len kuhar sem. Preizkušam in raziskujem šele od takrat, ko ne kuham več samo zase. Dodaj vaš čepec te začimbe. Kuhala bova po občutku, sproti pokušala, kar pripravljala. Drug drugega bova nahranila. Če bo česa zmanjkalo, lahko improvizirala. Vsega, kar vem o kuhi, sem se naučil od prijateljice, ki mi je zaupala skrivnost. Nikdar ne dovoli, da hrana zavoha tvoj strah. To je tudi vse, kar vem o ljubezni. Pojdiva v kuhinjo, pa ti pokažem. Te prevode sva naredila v sodelovanju z Urban Berlino.
I found, I've been living in Spain for around 10 years, almost 11 years now, and I write very differently in English and Spanish. I write much more, the poetry that I write in Spanish is much more intimate. Some of this, I think, has to do with the difference in the language, that in English, we have only one word for what in Spanish would be tú, usted, vosotros, and ustedes. That's the intimate second person. That we have an informal you and a formal you in Spanish, whereas in English it's all the same word. So, my English poetry is much more abstract, whereas in Spanish I'll write poems dedicated or directed or in dialogue to a poetic subject. So I have a very different poetic, I think, in English. So this is just one poem that I'll read from my first book in English called Fairy Tales for Writers, which is called Sleeping Beauty. There are many who yearn to be frozen while their youth is at its peak, to stretch out that ephemeral time into 100 years or more. There are others who seem not to discover themselves until late in life, following sundry other paths until they stumble upon a true vocation, such as writing. We call them sleeping beauties, these authors who blossom in a later season, their measured, mature prose, a welcome antidote to the youthful brouhaha that's all the rage in the marketplace these days. But far too many are the true sleeping beauties, who at a tender age find a harsh critic, who belittles their talent and their fantasies, with a verbal barb that's sharper than the nib of any fountain pen, that silences the stories, poems, daydreams they might have written. Be it from parent or teacher, sibling or spouse, just one tiny prick of criticism is all it takes sometimes to put a burgeoning writer to sleep. for 100 years, for a lifetime, for so long that no princes are left to hack through the brambles, or if one is, he can't imagine that he should bother. And the last thing I'm going to read, in addition to my work as an author, I have a small publishing house dedicated to poetry, and one of the books that I published last year is Banalities by Brane Majetic. And so I'm just going to read one of Brane's poems in English, which is probably very different for this audience who's used to hearing Brane only in Slovenian. The book is translated by Elizabeth Izargi, and it was revised by Timothy Liu, who has a book in the Lambda collection, Vox Angelica. So, she caught me, right in the middle of a James Schuyler poem. Not that there's anything special in the poem. I flinch. I'm waiting for a flight to Sweden, and she sits next to me. I sense her fidgeting. Not even a minute passes, and already she asks me what I'm reading. She doesn't hesitate. I turn the book over so that she's hit by the greasy title, Gay Poetry. What else should I have done? Ooh, she howls. I interrupt her and ask her for a few pointless questions. Yes, she's American and is going to get married this very weekend. I shift my eyes to the book. I had been looking right past her in any case. She waits a bit, so as not to be obvious. Then she stands up and goes somewhere else. I am angry with myself, because I felt that uneasiness within me. For decades, I haven't been able to get rid of it. I'd really like to tear the book's cover off. And why that word, caught? A notorious author of gay literature, now a child again, hidden under the blanket, I held a flashlight to the drawings in a children's story. The shirtless boy is playing on the beach. The main hero was especially to my liking, his slim, tight body. How stupid that tension of mine, the pounding of my heart, for who would ever figure out that I don't look at girls but boys? It's hard to put an end to it, the blushing, the trembling. I close the book and go to the washroom. As I stand at the urinal, dick in hand, the thought runs through my head again. I look ahead in the dark, and I don't dare look to the left nor to the right. I feel guys on either side. I hear the whizzing, surely as always checking each other out, comparing. And I, stiff, petrified that I'd be caught. What a weight they burdened me with. The boys are whipping it out, and I've been excluded from this game. Because I really mean it? Because I read gay literature? They'd known for ages, and never invited me to their games when they'd put someone else on display. Even now they are somewhat ill at ease, as I am because of them. This is why I rarely read in public. I socialize with people as little as possible, as though I'm embarrassed to exist. Thank you.